Hi, I was just playing around with a little concept here, a little method of using the pentatonic scale in a more complex way than just playing that minor pentatonic / blues scale over the blues chord progression. And it's a really good way to get into that zone of, or that area of being able to shift your tools as the chord progression goes by. Because that's something that can really be a huge thing, right, in the beginning, because we're so used to when we get that first blues scale under our fingers that we don't have to think about the individual chords. We just have to play on top of them, basically. But getting into that whole new area of targeting each chord is really beneficial because it's a totally different world where you suddenly gain a whole new level of control over what you do and the sounds you create up against the music. So, and this is a cool way to get there. What I do is, I have my we're playing a blues in C here, and we have our 3 blues chords. And I hope you're with me on that, because if you're not, then go back to another video or, on basic blues. We have that C dominant 7th chord, we have the F dominant 7th, and we have the G dominant 7th. And I can play that, of course, as we know, the C blues scale on top of every single one of them, right? So as they go by, I can just stick with that one scale and then become really good at using different notes over different chords. So it's not like every note sounds great or the same over all the chords. You have to be able to shift and use different notes within that blues scale. That's a really good note for the last chord, for instance, within that scale. And that's the first discipline. And then secondly, you can start targeting and use different pentatonic shapes or scales. And the first one is that since we're using a major chord, that's the first chord, we can use a major pentatonic, as you probably know, on top of that as well. So we can use both the C minor pentatonic, but we can also use the C major pentatonic. But how do we do that? Well, we can just start playing it. And the easiest way to do this is just to go down 3 frets from your C here and go down to the 5th fret and play the same first position minor pentatonic shape. And that's a really good idea to start there. So, because you're using the same tool, you're just moving it around. So let's just record a couple of bars of that C 7th. So we have that running. So we can use the blues scale there. Right? Sounds pretty good. But then I can also use the C major pentatonic, and I'm going to play that by going down to the 5th fret and play that same minor pentatonic shape, which would then be either the A minor pentatonic, or we could call it the C major pentatonic. And just listen to this. So that's pretty good, right? But blended with the minor, that's the whole. That's a totally different sound, right? But if I start, this is a good idea. Start in the major down here in the 5th fret, and then go up and end with a bluesy feel in the 8th fret. All right. So let me try that again on the B and E string. I'm just going to play the 4 notes on the B and E string in the 5th fret, and then I'm going to go up to the 8th fret there. Alright, and I'm going to end by playing the minor pentatonic up there. And it's a really good idea to stay there, stay down here. Or I can, the other way around, I can start in the minor pentatonic with the bluesy sound, go down into the major sound, and then up again. So I start and end in the minor pentatonic. And I stay on these 2 strings. Just 1 string. And so I really get comfortable down there over that first chord on those 2 strings. Then I can do the 2 middle strings. careful with, because we're so used to playing bluesy stuff within that minor pentatonic, but you don't want to do that. Sounds like you're playing a different song. You just want to use the notes and blend them with your bluesy line. So if you have a thing like in your blues scale that you're used to playing, then you can put in. So I'm just taking 3 notes from that shape down here, and I stay with the bluesy stuff up here. I hope you get my point here, because we want the major sound down here. We don't want that sound. We want with a focus on the C there and the third. But the most valuable thing I can say, just don't play bluesy stuff. Just use the notes as passing notes. So you start in the, right? I'm just using the 4 notes. I'm not bending it or anything down here. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And then I can do it on the lower 2 strings as well. Just listen to it. That's an interesting note there. I might want to avoid that or just use it really as a passing note. But that's cool. I don't really like that. It's also there. So, but it's right. So I explore how that whole thing works together, what notes sound cool, and I just have fun using it. And you must have a little delay pedal that can do the looping function I just did, or jam track pedal, so you can entertain yourself while you're doing it and listen for what works and what doesn't work. But that's just the first chord. And of course, I could also choose to play the second cage shape of the 2-note per string pentatonic shapes, and I can move it up here. So I play. So I put the 2 pentatonics just on top of each other. But in the beginning, it's a really good idea. Also, you get a nice to just play that same shape there, and that's what we're going to focus on here. But you can lay them out so they're placed in the same place. And of course, you can practice this in all 5 shapes. But what I recommend you do is that you take your 2 most favorite shapes of the blues scale, and then you practice going back and forth over that first chord within those, and then you add the other ones afterwards, because it's a really good idea to focus on results, getting results that you can use. So if you practice all Sunday, that when you meet with the guys and practice, you can actually do some new stuff instead of having to practice all 5 cage shapes and all 3 of the chords with different scale combinations, and then you can start having fun. That's really the wrong way, not the wrong, but the most inefficient way of going about it, because the result is too far away. And so you get discouraged, or you won't get the result because you just fall out of it and forget your whole plan. So create small results that really work, and start with the first position blues scale shape, or the blues scale shape you use the most, right? And keep it simple, 2 strings at a time. Okay, so that's the first chord. Then we have the second chord. That's also a dominant 7th, right? So we should be able to play a major pentatonic on top of that. And if you want to do that, you can actually just take your minor pentatonic shape, move it up 2 frets. So instead of playing in the 8th fret, you're playing in the 10th fret now. Right? So that's the second shape for the second chord. You can stay in your A, and then you can move up to. And again, I'm not playing any bluesy stuff within that shape, because it's major, it's another sound, but I'm playing back to the bluesy stuff there. So let's just try that. It's actually the exact same scale combination as before. Oh, it's not, because you're playing a C minor pentatonic over the F dominant 7th there. But let's do a chord progression that has both in it. First this first chord, and then the second chord. So we go. Oh, that's too, it's too close to each other. So let's just rest a little, have a little patience here. All right, and then we shift. So that's the first chord, right? Here comes the second, and then we can just play the standard C minor pentatonic with the blue note in it. But let me combine it with that scale, just 2 frets of. Perhaps not as exaggerated next time. Perhaps even more elegantly next time here. Let me just do the same thing on the lower 2 strings here, or the top. Remember that? Back to that first one. Here comes the second chord again. Going to start. First chord, and then second chord comes here. And then I do the same exercise. First the 2 higher strings, then the 2 middle. On that one, back to the first chord. 2 middle strings here. Second chord. And then I play around with it and really get to know the notes and teach myself what notes sound good over what in what scale shapes, over what chords, and that's the whole process here. But just stay with the 2 strings and really feel your way through it, and then each time you come up with something that sounds really cool, or that note sounds really good, then you repeat it 10 times. You rest on it. You keep focusing on it because that sounds good. That sounds good. So you teach your brain to focus on that cool new note that you have from the major shape. So, for instance, if we were in that second chord there, if I play this minor pentatonic shape 2 frets higher, right? This note is pretty cool because that's the major third of that second chord. So if I focus a lot on that, but you don't have to know it's the major third. All you have to know is that it sounds good. That note right there in that shape, in that scale combination. That's all, because it all becomes visual to you. Instead of a theoretical concept here, you search and probe and you try to build lines by starting in the normal minor pentatonic shape or the blues scale, moving out into the new shape, back again, and then you explore, say, okay, what sounds good here and what doesn't, and then you stay with what sounds good and focus on it. Now we have the third chord, and in this case it's a G, and so we can do the same thing with that. We can put the G major pentatonic on top of that, or which is also the E minor pentatonic. So now you have, if you want to use only the first position minor pentatonic shape, you have the 8th fret for the first one, and then you go down 3 frets to play over that first chord there, the tonic, and then you have the F dominant 7, and for that you just move your pentatonic shape up 2 steps, but you start again. This is a process of learning to mix the two, not to just go up into it and then back again and move your scales around like that. It's using the notes from the new scale one step up. So now you're mixing the minor pentatonic shape in the 8th fret and the minor pentatonic shape in the 10th fret by starting going out back and forth like that and exploring the notes on the fretboard, what sounds good. So, and for that 3rd chord, we then go all the way up to the 12th fret. You see? So I'm starting up here, the middle 2 strings, same shape. So, right? So you can build some really cool lines there. And remember again, I'm not doing bluesy stuff up here because that's not the blues scale. It's the it's the major pentatonic. So let's try that for a second. But this is all about a matter of context. It's going to sound weird if I just keep playing or the chords just by themselves. So let's just record a blues chord progression and let me try to use all 3 tools. But what you can do is that you can practice just recording that G, just have it run in the background, and then just let me just do that just so you. And then you can practice. But it's going to sound a little bit weird because now it sounds like we're in G blues, but we're not. It's the dominant, it's the last chord of C blues. So the ear can't really place this sound. But still, you can practice using the 2 scale shapes like that. See that? Oh, this sounds weird. Because it's out of context, out of musical context. But let's try to put it in the musical context by playing the whole chord progression so the ear will know where it's coming from and where it's going. Here we go. First chord again here. And then let me just try to do that again. First chord. Second chord. Third chord. So this becomes really a pleasurable experience once you have it practiced. And the second really cool benefit is that you learn to listen for what chords are playing in the background and develop the whole feeling of where you are in the period and the music. And that is just an amazing experience. So have fun with this and really go into it. And even though you think, oh, I can't, because it's so easy to use that first position blues scale shape or just the one scale across all chords, this is the next step for you. This is really what can open up your playing completely. And once you have, begun to master just in one position and just do it moving the same shape around, once you have that into your body and it feels comfortable and you can hear the chords and shift around, it really is like a revelation to master this. And then you can do it in other positions with other scale shapes in the pentatonic realm. And then you can start using arpeggios as well, and you can start doing all kinds of stuff. And suddenly it's a whole new discipline of soloing, a whole new world of just tools, arpeggios and scales and all kinds of stuff you can use to form and shape the sound, and to really never run out of any ideas because you're just shifting tools every time you get bored with yourself. So that was this video. I hope to see you in the next one. So have fun practicing until then.